Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The amount of rubbish we throw away is increasing due to things like lifestyle changes and an increasing population. It is a common sight to see our streets, drainages, roadsides, and even dump sites packed with empty bottles and various plastic packaging options, which are carelessly disposed of by users. This practice often poses environmental hazards to communities as they experience floods due to blockage of water drainages by most of these recyclables, which have become the fastest growing packaging option in the beverage and food industry. Joining us now to tell us what he's doing to ensure that we begin to treat our plastic trash as the treasure it is Mazi Okuno, founder of Recycle Points. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank
you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
So can you just take us through your Recycle Points? What do you do?
Okay, so Recycle Points basically is a waste recycling and social benefit initiative that actually motivates post-consumers to recycle by creating value from their everyday waste. So we try as much as we can to let post-consumers understand that the items they dispose has value, and this value can be captured when they recycle, and the recycling process it actually involves getting them back into systems that will turn them back into useful items. So almost 90% or 80% of the items that we dispose, even the food that we eat, can come back as something of value. And that's what basically we do at Recycle Points. And we use an incentive-based system to do this, where post-consumers that have registered on our platform could earn points based on the volume of items they give us, and those points they can accrue over time and redeem them for cash or valuable household items like television sets, washing machines, and all.
Okay, great. Now, I was looking up some facts on recycling, and one that shocked me is that since 1950, 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic have been produced, and only 9% of that number have been recycled. Now, you mentioned that we can turn plastic bottles into other things. So tell us about some of the creative ways in which we can transform our plastic into things that are still of use to us.
So, yes, so that's the thing. The plastic that you talk about clearly is a byproduct of petroleum. And in virgin form, you have it extracted for so many other things, and it can still go back to, forms of energy and petroleum. But basically, most times, like since 2010, the Nike apparel giant actually uses plastic bottles to make those jerseys, beautiful jerseys that you see. So, and just about 7 plastic bottles could make a jersey. Then you also have us putting them into other uses, like we have now bottle-to-bottle plants. Coca-Cola in Europe recently announced that they are putting back plastic from the marine back into their plastic packaging bottle, and it's a unique technology. So we have a whole lot of items that you have, from your packers that you use in your homes to every item of plastic that you could clearly spell out to be within the classes of, would say, class 1 to class 7 plastic, could actually be converted back into a new product. So once we can extract that, we can basically use it for something else, yeah.
So you've said that you can swap plastics for cash or household items. So that's when that exchange happens, that's the end of that with the consumer. Now, give us a peek into your back-end operations. When you get the plastics, what happens next?
So there is a value chain with regards to what happens to the plastic when the post-consumer disposes it responsibly. So once it gets to us, most times it comes to us from the households. It could also come to us from the collectors, waste pickers. We're trying to make sure we can disrupt what happens in our dump sites, where you have scavengers plumbing for these items under the various degrees of dirt. But then when it comes into our process, we actually do what we call some first-tier processing. We'll be able to sort out the items based on the various plastic types, because the plastic, you would just call it plastic, but there's a wide spectrum of what plastic is. So we have the very plastic bottles that you see that we use for our drinking, polyethylene terephthalate. It's a different type of plastic. So what we do at the collection and sorting hubs is to be able to sort them based on those types. Once that is done, we could be able to crush or build them, getting them ready for who we call off-takers. So these off-takers are actually the ones that have bigger processing plants. They could actually break them down further to form maybe fiber or whatever items of pellets that could be used directly by manufacturers manufacturers to produce another new product. And you see that circle going round and coming back to you. That's why we call it a circular economy. So if you put out those items, break it down from the collectors to the processors and then to the converters that bring it out into pellets, and then we have manufacturers picking it up again and producing a new product. By the time you know it, the packaging products gets back to beverage companies or the likes that will still use it as packaging for their product, and it comes back to the consumer.
Amazing. Now, of course, the doing of it is one side, but also the education and sensitization is another
part,
side.
yeah.
And that's probably even the most important side, because we need to make sure that everyone is playing the same card here. So what kind of education do you take into communities, and how do you teach communities about the importance of recycling?
So very recent, about a year ago, we started a program we call the Community Recycling Program, and it's basically the idea of taking this message out to communities that will clearly need to understand. You find out that their streets are littered with pure water sachets and all that, and these are really items of value that are in their community. So the idea is to make sure that they pick them up. So those community programs at the moment now we've been facilitated by a coalition called the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance, which is a producer responsibility organization having the likes of Coca-Cola, Nigerian Bottling Company, Nestle, Guinness, all coming together to say this is part of our packaging and we want to be able to get communities to pick them up. So similarly, it's also like an incentive-based program. So on a particular day, we come to a community, they all come with their plastic bottles and all, and they get to exchange them for basic food items or basic items of need that they did have in their homes. And that has been happening for a while now and getting a lot of traction. And also, we're also getting a lot of material recovery coming from that end, yeah.
That's great. What kind of items are you interested in? You just mentioned pure water sachets. What other things do you collect?
So basically, you have the PET plastic bottles, which is the bottles for water and beverage drinks. We also collect used beverage cans made of aluminum. So those cans, they even have higher value. Then we collect also paper. Paper, you have various types of paper. We have the corrugated brown cartons. We have the ordinary paper that you would use and dump off. Then we also have glass bottles. Wine bottles, Flint, amber, green bottles, they are all useful and we collect them. We collect also tires, do a couple of electronic waste through companies like eTerra and Henkley Recycling, which are companies that have been certified. So when we pick up these items from corporates or individuals, we send it to them.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah. Now, of course, beach waste is another huge problem when it comes to recycling. I think about 73% of beach waste is down to plastic. But let's talk about the effect that this is actually having on our sea animals, that we are also then eating, not realizing what it's doing to us as well.
Very correct. So most times you find out that when these plastic get into our oceans, they are broken down into what we call microplastics. And these are the ones that the marine aquatic animals can't even decipher between it being a food or stuff, and they inject it. And by the time it gets in and it, at the end of the day, gets on our table, we are also injecting that in. And that's the reason why we're trying to say that as much as we can, we need to be able to divert this away. So a lot of marine life actually dying these days because you open up whales, you're able to see a whole lot of plastics and all that, all being injected by the whales. And the challenge now is to be able to make sure that if we can cut off items or get items to be disposed responsibly, they wouldn't end up in our oceans and seas and become harmful to aquatic life.
I read something really alarming as well recently, that we have these microplastics even in tea bags, that they're literally everywhere.
Stop.
Yeah,
that is scary.
Tea bags. So scary.
Yeah, so once it comes down to those fragments, you never can tell where they'll end up. And the challenge is having to get this into our system because they can decompose. So it's something that will clearly be harmful to us.
Honestly. Now, we have LOMA in Lagos, the Lagos State Waste Management Agency. How well do you think LOMA is faring when it comes to the reduction of plastic across the state? And what do you think LOMA could also be doing to encourage initiatives like yours to continue?
So LOMA basically is a strong regulatory body for Lagos State government. I think they're doing very well with regards to compared to other states in the country. Recently, the Lagos State governor launched what they call the Blue Box program, which is clearly targeted at sensitizing households on recycling, and the agency LOMA is the one actually driving and spearheading that at the moment, trying to make sure that households can get color-coded bags that will help them segregate the items. So yes, they're doing a very good job at the moment, and the idea is that Lagos is very huge. You have to be able to have the support that you need to be able to reach out to all the nooks and crannies to be able to get that done. At the moment now, LOMA is clearly, I would say, getting all collectors together, trying to make sure that they could leverage platforms like ours and others that are out there, to be able to reach out to various locations where individuals can now have access, to those color-coded bags that they can use to, collect items in their households, bag it properly, and then get it out clearly to someone like agencies like ours that will now put it back into that system of recycling, yeah.
So let's talk about the practical aspects of it. How many sachets of pure water would I have to give you to get a TV?
Yeah,
So that's where it is. But the thing is this, so we're trying to make sure that we can put out what we call a culture that you also allow you to understand the value that comes with this. So in our platform in Recycle Points, for instance, one PET plastic bottle earns you a point, 10 pure water sachets earn you a point, 10 corrugated brown cartons earn you a point, the same with aluminum can and all. So, and for instance, you said a television set. So, but with inflation comes prices of this. We don't stock the items that we give away. So, but the idea is that we always have to use those points that you've earned, put it back into our system to understand what value it is, and then use it to fetch something out for you. Currently, with about 200,000 points, you could get a television set. With about 5,000 points.
200,000 points is what? Is that 200,000 pure water bags?
No, bottles.
200,000 bottles. Oh, that's a lot of work.
2 million pure water bags.
So, but then you'll be surprised when you start this kind of initiative how much it goes with regards to how you will quickly earn those points that you could translate to whatever you want to use it for. But then I've seen families that basically all the items that they currently have in their homes, you have them getting washing machines, you have them getting television sets, all from proceeds, and this is something they have accrued over a year or so, and they actually target these items that they want, and they're able to increase their recycling rates to be able to fetch those items.
Thank you, Mazi. We're going to come back to that after a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still with Mazi Okonu, founder of Recycle Points. So just before the break, we were talking about how much you would have to have acquired to be able to swap for household items. So do people tend to, in your experience, decide to save up for these big ticket items, or do they prefer cash?
So we run various programs, and basically households actually go out for the basic items that they need. So most of them would want to be able to get things like Indomie cartons, get things like rice bags, get things like beverages. And then if you have a need for a particular electronic equipment or stuff, you now have to, get to save your points to be able to attend those targets that will help you fetch or redeem those items. So we see that happening a lot. But then once some families have gotten basic items that they need, like television sets, they always go down to, basic things like the food items that they would use on a daily basis, yeah.
That's great. Now, people often get confused, and let's clarify this. There's a notion of saying no to plastic, and there's a notion of saying recycle plastic. And the problem with the notion of saying no to plastic is that what's the alternative then? And do we have a better alternative? So what's your take on that? Are we saying no here, or are we still encouraging plastic but saying we need to just go about it in the right way? Very
correct. For us in the circular economy, the idea is to be able to do it the right way. So plastic material is a very innovative packaging material. We are yet to see very good alternatives with regards to the qualities that the plastics actually has. So, but then the challenge has always been that of making sure, one, that the items or by design are easily recyclable. So a lot of emphasis at the moment is going on to get us to make sure that producers are complying to using materials that are clearly recyclable, when they are getting these product and packaging designs. So companies are now getting to that notion to make sure that whatever product that they have out there could completely or seamlessly be recycled and not have challenges, because you would see most times in your packaging the idea of making it look very okay and also to be able to hold up certain items. A lot of mix happens with regards to the different type of materials that get in. You can find aluminium and you can also have it laminated, but that makes recycling clearly difficult and expensive. So the call is now not just to say, okay, let's do away with plastic. For instance, in Nigeria, we use the pure water pouches are all made from polyethylene bags. So if we were to say we're going to ban single-use plastic, for instance, that would also mean us affecting that market sector. And I can tell you, since the advent of pure water sachets, there has been a huge reduction in waterborne diseases in the country. That industrial market is about a 5 billion naira market daily industry in Nigeria. So if you just say an outright ban like some countries that do,
like Rwanda.
like Rwanda, like Kenya, you'll be throwing a lot of people out, out of the market, and you will have very strong issues for us. So we're saying let's provide the right system to be able to get these items back into our system, and it will clearly create a lot of green jobs.
So there is a plastic ban bill that was presented at the last National Assembly, so you're clearly not in support of that.
So we're clearly saying that. Now, there are also clearly some challenging plastics that we could look into with regards to, I wouldn't say an outright ban, because it will clearly mean that that system will be closed. But we're saying come up with a structure or framework that would have us get them back into the system because of the various benefits that we would get from them. And if clearly there is, for such plastics, no solution, then we can say that, yes, we can actually outrightly ban them. At the moment now, our styrofoams, the ones that we use for food packaging, we have huge challenge with regards to recycling it. But then if we cannot have a solution to that, we should leverage other kinds of plastics to be able to cover that gap. So yes, I have two caps. I serve as the president of Recyclers Association of Nigeria, and we are clearly saying and advocating that we should be able to drive more circular economy strategies that will help our country than to just follow what is happening elsewhere to say, okay, we actually ban plastics.
Yeah, but how serious are these big companies as well that really and truly are spreading a lot of plastic around our environments? Because I recall when we were younger, you can get a Coke bottle, but most likely it's going to be a glass bottle that you're turning back in. But today, if I go and get the same Coke bottle, most likely it's going to be a plastic bottle. So are things really improving, or are they getting a bit lazier when it comes to plastic and how it's seen?
So with plastic, is basically on the go kind of product. So you are able to, with the glass bottles, you have to be able to return them back to the retail point and then, be able to fetch a new one. But with the plastic, it's more of like something on the go. So a lot of the companies feel very comfortable. It's also cost effective for them to, go the route of using plastics for their packaging. But then the drive now is to really get them to understand that they also have to pay attention to the life cycle of their packaging products, to try and see whether it could be closed. And NESRA, which is the regulatory body for Nigeria that actually regulates our environment, actually has been pushing what we call the extended producer responsibility, which is getting most of these packaging companies to take responsibility for their packaging. And there has been guidelines and policies that are on the table with regards to the EPR. And it has led also to what we call producer responsibility organizations. Like I mentioned earlier, the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance is a producer responsibility organization. And they are clearly out now to facilitate recycling, and they're coming together, sharing values with regards to putting up, various kind of initiatives and also funding or implementing strategies that will help, recover most of these items.
So from the manufacturing end, we really would prefer biodegradable materials. If you could have one law or a policy right now regarding the consumer end, how would you like to change the way we use plastics?
So yes, so everybody, the consciousness comes with regards to, at the point of you making a purchase, you ask yourself the question of, what is the packaging made of, and can your activity of buying that item influence how consumers or even the manufacturers think about the packaging that they have? A lot of manufacturers now are moving towards having packaging that could come on paper and easily get decomposed But then we also are skeptical about that area because it will mean falling a lot of trees and all those issues. But then for us, we are saying that from the consumer point of view, the awareness has to be there with regards to the kind of products that you pick up from the shelf, and to be able to look at it and tell yourself, is this clearly good for our environment? Is the packaging good? The new plastic economy, which is like an initiative from the World Economic Forum, is looking at coming up with a plastic protocol that would allow you at the point of purchase, identify the kind of plastic that is. Was it recycled such that it would also improve your or influence your buying power to say you will likely go for products that come in recyclable packaging?
Wow.
Great.
But how well really is Nigeria currently doing when it comes to our improvements in recycling over the years? Have we regressed by any chance? Are we getting better? What is the situation that's going on?
So
here?
I would say, basically from when I started, I've been in the industry for about 8 years. So I would say there has been a little bit of improvement. We've been able to attract a lot of companies at the moment that are in the country, all trying to, see how they can explore our huge potential population with regards to having clearly a consumer-driven nation to explore and get these materials out. So yes, so the challenge has always been our infrastructure in the country that makes it very difficult for us to move items. And we're also talking about making sure that you're making this sustainable and cost-effective. So for instance, if materials have to come all the way from Abuja, I would tell you, like I said earlier, most of those packaging materials end up coming all the way down to Lagos because that's where you have the manufacturing companies, and that's also our quickest route for exports. So infrastructure becomes a huge challenge when you have to now bring these items from Abuja, from Sokoto, from Maiduguri, getting it down here. By the time you do that, it erodes the value that you would have gotten, if you have effective rail systems and all, you would clearly make this. So we have been improving. The sensitization is happening. A lot of companies like us, Recycle Points, Recyclers, EcoPrint, Sendadati, they are having an effect in the economy, and it's actually getting the news is out there that it's an environment that needs to be supported, and we believe that in no time, if the right interventions come into the sector, we'll be able to have everyone understand and have access, and confidence to recycle.
We've run out of time, but I want you to tell people how they can find you, where they can drop off, how you can collect, and all of that in a few seconds.
So Recycle Points actually has our collection outlets in Ebute Metta. If you go to recyclepoints.com, www.recyclepoints.com, you'll be able to log in, do the registration. But we have collection points in Ebute Metta, we have one in Oshodi, we have one at the Arema Market in Oshodi and all. So if you go to the website, go down, register, and you'll be able to get that information.
Thank you so much.